Good morning, Northwest Indiana. This is Bob Sturkey on the morning show for Chuck Pullen, who is out and about doing his thing. My first question is, Lynette, are we live? Can people hear us?
I'm not sure.
Oh.
But that might just be part of our moving plan either way.
Part of our moving plan is just to have Bob sit in a very empty room and talk for a few hours. For those of you who are watching on YouTube, you can find it. If you're not watching, tune in to WJOB 1230 on YouTube. You'll get the live stream and you'll get to see all of this in whatever glory it is. You'll notice a few things are different. We're in the middle of a move. I think towards the end of this week, we're going to move the rest of whatever is left here in the studio back to the old place. And so this will probably be, I'm guessing, my last broadcast here in this studio. But yeah, so Chuck's not here today. Last week, I appreciate everyone tuning in for the Christmas show that we did. I had a real fun time doing that. Had some nice compliments from you all, and that sure that sure meant a lot. I appreciated that. Had a good time there. But today we are back to the old WJOB Chuck in the morning shtick, where we listen to really whatever you guys have to say. I put a post out last night that said, look, guys, if you don't call in and talk, you're going to have to listen to me, and nobody really wants that. So let's go ahead and get started with the day. You are listening to WJOB 1230 AM 104.7 FM here in the amazing, do I want to say rustic, Hammond, Indiana. Again, watch us on YouTube, WJOB 1230. Traffic is, if any of you slept through the night, congratulations. I didn't sleep through the night. The wind was awful, and road conditions are somewhat starting to match that, especially over in Illinois. There are already some issues on 94 westbound in the city between Stony Island and Lafayette. Everything is yellow for the most part on the Illinois side. In Indiana, for some reason, as always, on the tollway around Willow Creek, that gums up a little bit. The rest of it's kind of green. You know, if you know of something, give us a buzz, let us know. But just from my own experience, an hour ago traveling in, headlights on, go slow, give the truck some room, and that's all I got for the traffic at this moment. Lynette, you are already with weather. I just know it. You're going to tell us that it's going to be 70 and sunny here shortly.
Good morning, everyone.
No.
Today we're at 15 degrees with highs of 27 and lows of 12. It's going to be mostly cloudy, windy, and much colder. AM snow up to 1 inch, and then flurries. Any heavier snow shower could quickly make some roads slippery and reduce visibility. And then later tonight will be breezy and cold, rather cloudy this evening, then turning out clear late. Right now we have west winds of 11 miles per hour and with wind gusts of 25 miles per hour. And then tomorrow and Tuesday we'll be having highs of 28 and lows of 24 with some sunshine giving way to clouds. It should be breezy in the afternoon with intermittent snow and flurries with little or no accumulation. And then Wednesday we'll be having highs of 30 and lows of 7. It should be cloudy with a snow shower.
Well, that was not as fun as I was hoping. I do like, so I'm tapped out with snow. I'm done. I always said I like 2 snow events a year. I like one good blizzard where everybody's got to hunker down and stay in for a day or so. We had that around Thanksgiving. I then want a white Christmas. We didn't get that. So from here on out, aside from being warm in my house and maybe seeing nice lake effect snow flurries, I've got no use for it. But to go back to what I said about the wind last night, not only did it keep me up, my guess is that it kept everyone else up. NIPSCO is reporting. Let me pull up the the latest numbers here. NIPSCO is reporting just shy of 4,000 customers out. Munster, I think Munster has the most with about 2,500 out. Highland has about 600 out. This is all on NIPSCO's power outage map. There is, give those guys a wide berth. It is, like Lynette said, it is 15 degrees outside. You have heard the wind all night long, and so NIPSCO's got their crews out there, and let's give them a hand for out there doing their thing. And power is one of those things that we really take for granted, and I say that when the power goes out, or say the water goes out, the habit is you walk in a room and you flip on a light or you flip on the faucet, and there is a slight panic when it doesn't come on because we're just so used to it. It's woven into us now that you should be able to walk into a room and flip a light. But when these windstorms roll in here like this, you've got old trees, power lines, things whipping around, and you're bound to have some outages. So to the NIPSCO crews out there, thanks for doing what you're doing. Take your time, do it right, safety first. And that's all I have to say on the outages like that at the moment. We'll keep an update on that. So callers here, I'm gonna take you here in a second. If we have any, do we have any yet?
Not yet.
Not yet. Walt, where are you, man? Come on. Are you all boycotting because I made you wait 2 hours last Monday? I apologize for that. For some of you watching on YouTube, you'll notice that we have a new graphic. Chuck, for whatever reason, Chuck likes seasonally themed show names. So Chuck had his Summer of Chuck 2, The Electric Boogaloo, and then he had the Fall of Chuck and Bob, or Bob and Chuck. I don't even remember which one it was. And now we have the Winter of Discontent. And he is so malcontent that he's not even showing up this time. But we've got as we move. I've never been to the new studio. A lot of the callers here. I know so many of the callers and the listeners. You guys have been longtime callers and listeners, and I've never been to the old studio. I have no clue what we're going to get into. Lynette and I were talking. There's a rumor that it's haunted. I don't know. I don't know who are they say haunted? Who haunts it? Nobody?
No idea.
No idea.
I just heard that from the other producers. I don't know if they're telling the truth or not.
Oh,
or if they're dramatic.
They could be dramatic, and it has nothing to do with the ghosts. They're just dramatic.
I know Joe was too scared to go in there alone recently.
Oh, really?
He waited in his car until Matt got there.
Oh, that's amazing. We're going to have to tease him on that. For those of you watching, I am sporting what is clearly a trophy, and I first want to apologize to all of the other dads out there. I appreciate your hard work and dedication, but you didn't make it. I am officially the number one dad, as evidenced by this hat that Liam got me for Christmas. They do this, they call it the penguin patch now, I guess because Santa's Secret Workshop, when I was a kid, they always called it Santa's Workshop, but for some reason, I don't know, you can't say Santa. I was a part of the PTO in the elementary school in Dyer, and there were some folks that took issue. Hey, Santa's not a part of our family lexicon, so we can't do that. And I thought that was bogus. I liked Santa's Secret Workshop. I still call it that, but now they call it the penguin patch because evidently that's what I don't know, makes people feel better about the holidays. We've got one caller, and I am so excited. My money's on Walt, but I could be wrong. Caller, good morning. Thanks for calling in.
Councilman, how are you?
Fantastic. How are you doing?
Food for thought for your listeners.
Yeah. What you got?
we talk about seniors and having trouble meeting their bills between the drugs they need to take to stay alive and paying their food bills, right?
Right.
How about some of these police chiefs where people are bringing in food to their departments all the time? How about one of these police chiefs step up and say, hey, our officers are fine. They're making between 70, 80, 90, 100, $110,000 a year salaries. How about we donate some of this food or encourage the givers to take it to a retirement home or an individual's house instead of just happily accepting all these, especially when some of their officers don't look like they've missed a meal.
I can appreciate that sentiment. As you were running down the list of places where folks can contribute to or donate to. You mentioned retirement homes, some of these memory care facilities that are popping up. There's a group out there that I think is really underserved and under communicated with, and I had mentioned it last week to check on some of those folks. We all live in we're all neighbors of somebody. There's a very small portion of us that have a house with 30 acres, and you have to walk a bit to find your neighbor. Everyone's got neighbors, and there's the community of shut-ins that for whatever reason can't get out of the house, whether it's age related or ability related. And these folks here, everyone is always so busy going about their lives. And, these folks here are, I would think one of our critical populations that, whether, as you mentioned, police and fire chiefs, groups that tend to get these, sponsored, I don't know if sponsored meals, whatever it may be, those guys to, just any of our township folks, we always think of Christmas time as the time of giving, but really year round, we need to be reaching out to these folks. So, and again, I encourage folks, if you know someone in your community that is a shut-in, that maybe this, maybe if you're listening, this is your, not a wake-up call, but this is your little nudge to, hey, say, check in on them. Maybe some folks need a welfare check, or maybe they just need a call or a knock on the door to see if they need anything. And so I appreciate that call and that reminder that look, there's some folks that are on the receiving end of some things, and that's fantastic. I love when I see on Thanksgiving or Christmas Day some of the local restaurants stepping up and supporting first responders, whether it's police, fire, EMS, any of those guys. I know some public works departments will have folks bring in food, especially after they hear stories of the late night water main breaks. It's 15 degrees outside, and they've been out there for 8 hours, and they're cold.
Starkey.
Yeah.
I think your public works people, I know there's appreciation, middle of the night, they unplug the drain, so on and so forth, but I think they're making a pretty good salary as well. So I think that maybe there's a family out there that didn't have the greatest Christmas for their little ones, and they go, wow, you know what? We'd have been happy to get a knock on the door and get a pizza from the police department, or we'd have been happy to get those Jimmy John sandwiches. To me, it's absolutely ridiculous that those police departments accept that like they do when they're making the money they do. That's it. Period. End of sentence.
Sounds good. Well, I appreciate your call, and it like I said, it is good food for thought for everyone listening. Whether you are a on the receiving end of that, or you're on the giving end of that. One of these businesses that that choose to donate their goods that way. It is good food for thought. So I appreciate your call. Thank you. And I hope that I do hope that you had a great Christmas as well as everyone else.
My present is you doing a show without that other guy.
Jed or Chuck?
Well,
Yeah, got you there, didn't I?
you could ship Jed anywhere. Yeah, don't let Jed come in today, please. Let's hope he has his laziness and just stays in bed, and he's not going to shower and he won't do his hair. So take care.
Have a good one. Thanks for calling in. I've been new to this whole WJOB family. I've been doing it since I've hosted some other shows on here. There's a Region Republican show that's paid for by the Lake County Republican Party that I've hosted for about a year. We do a Town of Dyer show, which is there's a lot of community programming on this network between different school districts and municipalities come on, and it's another way for us to share some of the information that goes out into the community. And so I've been very grateful for all of the folks here at WJOB. Jed gets so much slack on this, and half the time I don't know if it's just this long running gag that people have, that he's the low hanging fruit that people like to tease, or if some folks genuinely have an issue with them. And I'm not saying this to blow smoke. I've been very appreciative of all the opportunities that that Jed has given myself, and some of the criticism of Chuck is spot on, I guess. I don't know. He is Lynette's second favorite host, so clearly he's not number one.
Still Tom.
Still Tom. What about me?
You're tied with Chuck. You guys are like a duo.
Oh, wow. That is probably one of the more offensive things I've heard this morning. But no. So caller, thanks for calling in. I appreciate it. And again, thanks to all the folks here at WJOB for all the love that I've gotten over the last, I don't know. What have I've been doing this maybe 6 months now, so I appreciate that. We got any more calls, or do we get to listen to Bob for a while?
We get to listen to you for a while.
Oh, that's fantastic. So one of the big news stories that I've been following, and let me take you through my train of thought of how I follow a news story. This may sound silly. This may sound, some of the boomers out there listening may roll their eyes, whatever. I don't care. I honestly, I don't tend to watch CNN or MSNBC or any of these national news things. I think I'm too involved in politics to really get into that. I think so much of it is just bogus. So what I do is, as I'm scrolling, just doom scrolling on Facebook, Instagram, whatever it may be, if I start to see memes or reels that just that something starts going viral, that's when I start paying attention to it, because I figure that for something to go viral, there has to be a common thread in a story that starts to target all sorts of different algorithms. And so something that for maybe a week or so now I've been somewhat paying attention to the Somali raids in Minnesota, and it took me about a week to think, to really even research to see, okay, Somalis in Minnesota. I didn't know if that was like a title of an X Factor or an X-Files show. I didn't get that. But come to find out here, and now the FBI is actively investigating what it calls industrial scale fraud involving multiple social service programs that date back to the COVID-19 pandemic era. Now, if Chuck were here, he would start to blow a gasket because immediately he's going to rewind into all the bogusness that the COVID-19 response was. And there's a lot of that, and if you've got an opinion on that, feel free to call in and we could talk about that. But we've got, this includes, child nutrition, child care aid, Medicaid link services, and some reports are saying that up to $18 billion since the COVID-19 pandemic started that have been funneling into these various Somali-run organizations. And what popped all this off was some 20-something-year-old kid with a YouTube channel and a webcam was going around, and there are just buildings and buildings and storefronts of all of these daycare and health clinics that are serving no one. There are no kids there, yet they're receiving millions upon millions of dollars. And the amount of fraud happening in Minnesota now is really, I think, is going to be something truly historic when it's all said and done. So that's something to brighten up your morning, knowing that there's massive fraud going on with, surprise, the government. All right, we're going to take a little break here. Lynette likes to play some music every once in a while. Station also likes to make a little money playing some ads. So we're going to do that, and we'll be back in a few. Welcome back, everyone. You are listening to WJOB 1230 AM 104.7 FM. I did just get a note from Paul Goddard saying that 80 eastbound at it looks like there's a 3-car vehicle crash. Caller struck by a semi-trailer. That's at 80 eastbound at the .5 mile marker. 80 eastbound to 65 southbound. There's a crash slide off with a jackknife semi. Mr. Goddard, thank you very much for letting us know that. Again, if you've got any traffic tips, give us a call. Let us know what's going on. Appreciate that. Little update on the NIPSCO power outages. Looks like their numbers have increased just a little bit here. Reminder to folks that these outages today are they're related from all that wind and the storm that we had moved through last night. Check out nipsco.com/outage center. You can enter your zip code and see what's going on there. You can also text out OUT to 444-111 to report any outages or to get any updates. I just very briefly here. I'm not going to go into it just because I don't want to back read any of this. For the first time, I know Lynette does this often. I've got my laptop here and I keep it just as a buffer between myself and the camera. I don't often go to the YouTube stream to check on the comments. I don't ever during the show. And so, Lynette, I appreciate you keeping up on that and responding to the listeners there. I think maybe when we get to the new studio, maybe we'll set something up with the monitor where we can interact real time with those folks on YouTube. Looks like some of y'all have some pretty good comments. And apologies for my low volume, but it looks like she fixed that. We've got some callers here at 928 here in the region. Let's go ahead and take the first one. Caller, how's it going?
Who am I speaking with?
This is Bob Starkey. How you doing?
Bob, how you doing?
Wonderful.
Bob, you said something a few minutes ago. It kind of disturbed me.
Yeah.
And of course, people are cutting down Jed. They said they'd rather not have him on. They don't want different opinions. What they don't want.
Mm.
And Jed owns that station. He's done. I think he's been fair. He allowed me to talk, and some of the people say, "Don't let him talk."
Yeah.
And you said what I disagree with you on. You said you don't listen to CNN. You don't listen to MSNBC. It's fake news. But again, you never said nothing about Fox. It's not fake news.
Oh, okay. Well, then let me let me amend that just to say, Fox News, any of those cable news things. I mean, it's all just the same, left-wing information, right-wing information. It's just the same stuff, just regurgitated all the time.
I agree. I want to sometimes turn the television off on MSNBC or CNN because Trump has got a different message every day. And it kind of makes you a little ill, like say, just turn the television off. Because right now we're into a war, and don't say we're not. I listened to yesterday, this guy from Ukraine was meeting in Mar-a-Lago, whatever it is, in Florida.
Yeah. Zelensky was in Mar-a-Lago, and I heard it, but who knows what happened?
And Trump looked like he was afraid to say something because Trump was telling him in a minute, I make the decision. Do we want something? Is this America what we want? Going toward a war? And he'll say fake news. He called a lady out one day. Give her a name. Where are you from? Then he called her Piggy, Miss Piggy, or something like that. Do you want a president like that? And you don't want nobody to say nothing about that? And I understand right now, Bob. I understand right now, just based on that, his popularity is down like 35%. See, the problem is, and he mentioned one of those interviews, he mentioned Joe Biden about 15 times. You know, give me a break. The man is sick. He ain't worried about him running no more. Is this the kind of president you want? You know, I'm just simply saying let's put it this way. I'm gonna be fair about it. If Obama was coming and doing some stuff like this, I say, man, stand up and be a man. Don't stand up and be a sound. It's crazy. And if you don't see that, I know a lot of time. I run into people, and I don't know how they know me. Maybe my voice in suburban areas. They say, I appreciate you so much. I say, well, you know, those others, they don't like me, but they listen every day because they want to see what I'm going to say. So it makes a show.
And I'll be honest with you, that's one thing that a couple points here. Someone will come on the radio and say something to Chuck, and then you'll come in and say something different, and then someone else will call in, and I find it to be absolutely interesting because there are parts with all of you that not you specifically, but all the callers. I agree with some stuff. I don't agree, but it is so. I love the fact that we've got this outlet where we can have those conversations. And going back to I think the reason or what started this call off with not watching some of these. I don't want to call them traditional news because in my mind, traditional news is your CBS 60 Minutes. Probably CNN may fall under that, but I'll tell a quick story here and see what you think.
That's okay. Go ahead. Take your time. You don't have many callers this morning. You probably will after I get off the radio.
No. As soon as you get off, I'm going to get a ton of calls saying, "Oh, that guy don't know what he's talking about." But
I do. I'm a single issue oriented person. A lot of times people are single issue. I hear people say, "Well, what about the border? What about Minnesota? Well, what about America?" Don't be single issue. You need to be aware and know what's going on in your government, and you need to not say fake. We don't need a parrot saying fake news. We don't need that. They got him sometime on a tape right now. Everything that he said, I just catch him into when they get off that bus. He said he didn't say that. He heard it was on live. It was on a hot mic. But go ahead. I'm sorry. And then
No. You're fine. What I was going to say is, my mother when she was here, she would always ask me, "Oh, what's going on in the news? What's going on in the news?" And truly, for the last 5 or 6 years, I've unplugged from having the news on is the background noise, and I like having a TV on wherever I'm working just for background noise. And for the longest time, it was the news because I was interested in it. It was politics going on, but it was so just damning to my mood. Again, didn't matter, and whether it was a Fox News or a CNN or MSNBC, they were all just such a wet blanket on my day. One of the best things I did for my own spirit was to unplug from that constant feed of partisan news. And so, as I said earlier, I will wait until something appears on my feed as viral, and then I'll start to do a little investigation to see, okay, what if this is real? What if this is just spin? Because, I don't know anybody, aside from, maybe sycophants on either side, that can say, I fully stand by this news source, and they're the only ones I listen to because they get it right all the time. I think that's baloney. And so, yeah, if I omitted Fox News earlier, that was just happenstance.
See, the thing about it right now, and I say this, and I say I have some friends who were Republicans, and I say to them, Donald Trump is not a savior. He is not a god, okay? Let's not treat him as he's a human being. Matter of fact, he said he's the only president that's been treated the way he's the only president that's been acting up like he does. They had no president in this country. Right now, they say, well, he don't take a salary. Well, hell no, he don't take a salary. He's made $4 billion pimping the public since he been in office. $4 billion. Are you aware of that?
And that's another one of those that I saw. I know in the first term, I know in Trump 1, he lost like a third of his net worth.
And he making it up now. Okay, yeah.
Well, and so I looked. I thought, well, what is he making all of this, money on it? I'm not seeing any stories that he's forcing people to use Trump properties when they stay, and what at least what I've read on the interwebs was that a majority of this is coming from crypto,
Okay,
which
I understand.
admittedly I know nothing about crypto.
But he sells purse, shoes. He does everything but being trying to take care of America. Right now, this guy Maduro, he wants to take this guy out. He wants to do something to him. Does he live in this country? I don't care what's happening over there in this other country. I'm an American, and America ought to come first. When you say make America great again, I could turn that around, but I won't.
Yeah.
I won't turn that around. You know where I'm going with that.
I do.
So I'm just simply saying that America's always been great to me. Even to the time when I didn't like what some of the government was doing, but it was a great country where we just had some bad leaders. And I just think a lot of times when I talk on this radio, and I talk on several across the country, and especially one here in Gary, Indiana, WLTH Radio, your competitor, and they allow people to speak and have people speak. We don't have the kind of animosity with callers, call and they have things that don't be too repetitious. We don't want you to come back and call 20 times again, and they got a show going on, and they are very successful, WLTH Radio. They're very successful. And so I just see right now the way I am, I'm not, if I was running for office throughout the county, I probably would say no, I wouldn't do it because some of the people who here hate me so much. I've been in elected office. I know what it's like, but I was basically here in the North Township, Calumet Township area where I used to serve as the chairman of the board, the Calumet Township Trustee's office. And I know that my slogan was advocate for the people, not for the politicians. Advocate for the people. That was my slogan. Ron Matlock, advocate for the people. And I left office with no kind of graft or corruption, right? Because if I did, I would have gone to jail. They sent some to jail for me. You know that from this area.
Oh, in this area here, yes, they have no folks. I think.
And my mother always told me, be a good person. Once I entered the political arena, I was always good in government. I understand how government works. And she said, but I'll support you, Ron. But my support will stop at the jailhouse door. In other words, I'm not going to jail for supporting you, okay?
Yeah.
And so sometimes I just think that the way I was brought up, and I don't listen to, I think there was some, I think Mike Pence was a very good vice president, but because he did what he was supposed to do, in terms of that thing, they wanted to keep Trump in office, and you know that. They wanted to,
I have a, I think a lot of these political figures, history views differently later on. Truman was one where when he left office, he had a horrible, abysmal, lower than Trump's approval rating, and as time went on, history viewed him better. I have an affinity for Vice President Pence. I worked for him for about 10, 11 years. A lot of his staff were signers of letters. So my son that I had on the Christmas show last week, my wife and I we adopted him, and we had we adopted him from out west, out in Nevada. And when you go through that process, you need people to submit letters of recommendations to the court. And a lot of, I think outside of one, all of our letters of support came from the Mike Pence staff. He was one of the guys, honestly, that got me deep into politics. So I have an affinity for him. I think over time, history may judge him differently. And when it comes to all of the Trump stuff, I'm just glad I'm not that person because
why would they hate him so much? But do you think it was right for them to do talking about him and stuff like that Well, you think that was right?
Well, I mean, it's never right when you start calling for that stuff. And I got to tell you, real
Well,
quick here, and then
why didn't the president come out and say, "Hey, it's wrong. You'll stop"? He didn't do that.
I mean, you'd have to ask.
No, I know that.
But
You know that.
but for myself, one of the things that actually softened this is going to sound odd here. One of the things that softened my views on Barack Obama, where I was extremely critical of Barack Obama. I think some of the policies, especially things like the Affordable Care Act, I think some of these were damaging to the country. I was very critical of him, and I had some of these, maybe more acerbic views and comments of him during his presidency. And then when I started working for Mike Pence, there were times when I would pick him up at that airport on Main Street, the Griffith, the Gary, that little municipal airport over there. I'd pick him up in a van, and not the Gary Airport, the little one.
No, that little one that's Gary Airport now. Is Griffith you talking about?
Yeah, the one on Main Street.
Do you know that it was Gary Airport now?
Okay, I'd pick him up there, and we'd drive around. He'd have a Subway in the car. We'd be and I thought, okay, this is a good guy. And then you'd go on, you'd see something on the news. It's like, oh well, he hates puppies or something like that. And that's really when my view of sort of that mass media turned. I thought, this is a guy who, is not outwardly evil. None of these things that I hear, because I have a personal experience with him. And to tie that to the Obama thing, I thought, well, possibly some of these things that I heard and bought into before are not entirely accurate. And that started my conscious uncoupling. I think that was some stupid Hollywood phrase, but that's really when I started to unplug a little bit from some of the national news. So,
but see, the thing about it is that what you have to look at, let me ask you, what's the difference between affordable health care and Obamacare? I want to ask you that because I asked another person that, and they like, oh, you're right. What's the difference?
The Affordable Care Act is Obamacare.
Okay. Well, I asked the guy. He was a white guy. I said, "What do you think about Obama?" Oh, I don't like it. I said, "What about affordable health care?" Oh, I like it. I said, "It's the same damn thing."
Yeah. That's just something that.
Out of stupidity, some people don't understand what's going on, and they put the name Obamacare because they didn't like Obama, so they did that to turn people off. But now, hold on, and I'm gonna get off after this. They had 4 years the first time when Trump went in. He didn't bring anything in better. He criticized, and so Obama said, "Hey, if you got something better, come on with it. We'll agree with it." He never came up with it, and right now, it still haven't came up with anything to replace that. And you need to, if you're going to do that, you need to have something better. And I'm just simply saying that just don't be. I don't care what it is. I think Dick Lugar I know a lot of Republicans I like, but again, there are a lot of those Republicans are not running. They have abandoned ship. And the problem is with Trump don't like the fact that are you aware of who got more votes than any presidential candidate? I'm gonna tell you who that person was. You may not know, but you could pull it up. Joe Biden got more votes than any president, and Trump said no, he got more votes. Pull it up. Don't take my word. I hope you come back after you just go online and pull it up. They'll tell you Joe Biden, even though he was defeated, but he got more votes than anybody because he didn't run against Trump this last time. Kamala Harris ran,
Yeah.
But he got more votes. So that's what Trump don't like, for anybody to outdo him. And that's kind of like kid stuff. I'm just saying, I ask people, what do you like about him? What do you like about it? Just watch and listen to what he say, and you don't know what's going to be tomorrow. and if you don't believe that we headed toward a world war, you're wrong. Right now, they talk about blowing up these boats and taking over. And this guy from Honduras said, the only thing he want to do is take control of all our oil and stuff. That's what he wants to do.
Well,
so it's crazy, man.
Let's hope for everyone's sake that what did Kennedy say, that cooler heads prevail and we don't head towards a world war.
I could buy 2 hours on your radio station and debating with you about that, and you'll come out as being a loser if you don't know what you're talking about.
All right. Hey, thanks for calling in. I appreciate it. You have a great Monday. Have
I
a
will.
good last
I
few
keep
days of 2025.
I keep the TV off right now. Okay.
All right. I'll talk to you later. Thanks for calling. I think we got another caller. No, she wants to go to a break. She loves her ads and her music. So we're gonna take a little break here, and we'll hit you back up in a few. Welcome back, Northwest Indiana, to the morning show, Chuck's morning show that I, Bob Starkey, have taken over last week and this week. Chuck will be back next week. For those of you who've been listening for a while, you know that I'm not here the first Monday of the month. That's when we have our staff meetings for work, and I'm down in Indy for that. So next week you'll get to hear Chuck and everything that he loves to talk about here on Chuck's new winter show, the Winter of Discontent, Chuck's Winter of Discontent. And again, if you're a longtime listener, you know that he has many things to be discontent about. A quick look at the traffic. It appears that westbound 80 between 41 and the state line is really starting to slow up again. There's just a lot. Admittedly, I've always been terrible at traffic because as soon as you get into Illinois, I have a mental block. I rely on the GPS. I don't know which roads are which. But if you're looking at traffic, just about everything is starting to slow down. From let's see, what do we got here? We've got the tollway. The tri-state tollway's tough. There's an accident on the Stevenson that is just solid traffic, gumming everything up. Delays of 5 or 10 minutes there. So again, just take your time this morning. The weather is not helping anybody with the visibility. So just keep an eye out for that. Headlights on. Stop. These people that drive without their headlights, just stop it. Turn them on. All right, callers. Let's see what you got. Good morning, caller.
Good morning. I was almost ready to gonna hang up because I was on hold and you were finishing up with Ron, and you said, "Do we got any callers?" No. And I think, uh-oh, Am I really on hold, or
what's
going on?
But before you continue, that's as much as I may be the voice on the radio here. I've got the laptop. I've got like the faux power seat with the microphone. I am just a dancing.
You're a puppet without strings.
I am. Lynette runs the whole thing, and I didn't realize that she was texting me, "Hey, we got to take a break. We got to do this and that," and I. So really, she's in the power seat, and so that was her way of saying, "Bob, shut up. We're going to take a break. We're going to earn some money here."
I don't really care. I mean, first thing, I know your show is going to. I didn't know if this radio was going to be on this morning because of the move you're doing and everything, but because last night I stayed up late watching a game, and the wind was getting cold. It was windy. So I had my alarm set up for every time to get up in the morning, get my coffee, and then get ready to listen to the show. Well, when the alarm went off, I got up, shut it off, said, heck with it. I'm crawling back under the blanket. So I woke up, I started listening to you at 6:21. I was hearing the wonderful professor. So I don't know, what did the show actually start on time? Did you start at 6 or it was?
Yeah, no,
after?
we were on right at 6:00, and
now see, one day that I just shut the alarm off and go back under and crawl under the blanket. I miss it when the show starts on time. But
it started on time. It was live on both the air and on YouTube. It was a strange confluence of events for the morning show. I will be the first to admit that.
All right. Well, thing is, I got so much I'd like to talk about what I heard between Walt and Ron, but I don't want to talk about the stupid politics because all it is stupid stuff.
I'll agree. So what do you got? Give me something that's non-political that's on your mind.
Yes. Well, I want to ask you two things in a second, but what I've been doing now is I'm doing a survey of 10 restaurants in this area. I already got 2 out of the way. And now I'm going to go south on 41. And the guy that was over last night watching the game with me, I told him which 2 restaurants. I got an idea, but I'm doing it on appearance and everything, and it's going to take me about, because I was almost going to go Sunday, but I had told my wife I'm going to do one every week for 10 weeks. I'm going to every restaurant, sample it of the appearance and la-di-da-da. I took a picture of what I'm eating and doing a survey, but. Enough on that one, but what I want to ask you is, okay, what city are you from?
Dyer.
Okay, now, this is what I've been doing now. Okay, like Gary, Indiana, Hammond, Indiana, Whiting, Indiana, Dyer, St. John, Griffith, Maryville, all these cities. I've been doing research now. Okay, so Dyer. You're from Dyer.
Yep.
Okay, what year, when did that city get that name of Dyer, and who named it?
So Dyer, if I'm not mistaken, we actually have the Town of Dyer show here on WJOB at 8:30, 8:35 today. Be a good question for some of them. I want to say it was incorporated in not 1910. You would think being a council member, I would know this. I do know that it was named. Dyer is the maiden name of the wife of Aaron Hart. Aaron Hart was one of the initial settlers in the Dyer area. His wife, her maiden name was Dyer, and so that's where Hart Street gets its name. Sheffield turns into Hart Street in Dyer. And so that's her maiden name was Dyer, and so he
because it's like you get these and like Whiting. I think I know how Whiting got its name, because whoever came to that area back many moons ago, there must have been snow on the ground. He says, "Wow, it's whiting here," and then like I always joke around with people, and it's not true, but it's like Hobart, Indiana. I always say, you know how Hobart got its name? It's because some guy's coming through that city in a horse-drawn buggy, and he says, "Hobart," told his horse to stop.
Wow. When we have the WJOB Dad Joke Hour, we need to make sure that you're You're on there. I did just Google
But I
as
mean, it's just wonderful. I mean, I like to hear some other listeners, and people explain. Now I was raised and born in Gary, Indiana, and I know everything. I know everything about Gary. I know how Gary has got its name, and all the things, and how the schools got their names. I did a research before they tore down all the schools and all the Gary, Indiana schools went away. You know, I did a research of how each school in Gary, Indiana got its name. It's just like, okay, like Hammond has Morton and Gavitt and a lot of the other, they name the schools. And, it's like, now Dyer, I don't know what elementary schools and how they got their names. And then like St. John, it's like, I just like to leave everybody this morning with that, because I kind of got to wake up now and get my coffee drink and listen to you, but I really enjoy listening. Are you still in the old studio right now? I mean, the one on Indianapolis Boulevard, or
so
what?
for me, I'm one of the new guys here on WJOB. So for me, this will become the old studio when we move back to the old studio. As you can, if you're watching on YouTube, if you're just listening, I'd probably sound the same. But if you're watching on YouTube, they've taken everything out of here, the desks, the TVs. If somehow we could even pan around or zoom out, I'm not saying we need to. Just there's nothing in the studio. It is quite literally a microphone, a chair, and an end table for me.
All right. Well,
so this will be the last few days that we're broadcasting out of the Purdue studios.
But I'm going to let you go so I can listen to all the other callers and all your subjects and everything. That's why I'd like to listen to the station, because I call it whatchamacallit. You'll hear everything in the world. But I'll leave you with one last thing. I listened to your show last week, and you had your son on there, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and talking about the Christmas whatever story or Christmas special. Okay, so you're there. Okay, now I heard your son say his favorite Christmas show, Home Alone. Now, you're there. You did not leave your son home alone, did you?
No. He again. So in the mornings, so everybody's on the school Christmas break right now. They're all home. Typically in the mornings, as he's getting ready for school before he goes out to the bus. My wife will throw this show up on YouTube. Just he likes to to watch it in the mornings, and so I've started to add a little thing here and there, and just little Easter eggs for him. So he's home now. For those of you watching, I have on the table here a little paper mache snake that he made in art class that I took from home this morning.
Boy.
Just a little Easter egg for him as he watches in the morning.
All right. Well,
ready.
you know what? I'm gonna let you go so that you can finish your show, and that your town's coming on this morning. Maybe they can explain more about how the city and everything got its name. But I leave this with one thing this morning is, okay, Wednesday evening and Wednesday night is New Year's Eve, so just everybody, if you go out, just be careful, be safe. And if you do enjoy some drinks and you've had a little bit too much, let somebody else drive.
Wise advice any time of the year.
Enjoy your night, but if you do enjoy it too much, let somebody that's a little bit, I guess sober than you, take you home. Be safe, but enjoy your last hours of this year. Like I probably won't see you or hear from you till next year again. And then all the listeners, everybody out there, just have a wonderful, safe, happy New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, and enjoy the holiday. Be safe and stay warm, and check on all of the family and everybody. Okie doke.
All right. Thanks for calling in. I appreciate it.
Okay.
We're going to take a break here and reset for the top of the hour, and I will see you all in a few minutes. Good morning, Northwest Indiana. Welcome back to the winter of Chuck's Discontent here on WJOB. I am your host, Bob Starkey. Today, Chuck is out. He'll be back next week when you can hear all the good things that Chuck always brings to the radio. It is 7:04 here in the region. You are listening to WJOB 1230 AM 104.7 FM. Watching on YouTube at WJOB 1230, you get to see all of this in its glory. Traffic, as I had just said, my caveat to traffic is I'm horrible at traffic, but the only thing worse than my presenting of the traffic is the actual traffic at this point. Looks like westbound 8094 coming up on 41 is quite slow. We've got 90 West is slow at Sibley. Everything else is getting yellow to orange. There's at 94 East going into the city is pretty rough. All the way up through 55 South. That's just 294 West at US 20 everything is just slow. So take your time. Leave early, grab your coffee. If you've got any traffic updates, give us a call. If you see something out there that folks need to know about, let us know. And how's the weather doing, Lynette?
Good morning, everyone. Today we're at 15 degrees with highs of 27 and lows of 12. It's going to be mostly cloudy, windy, and much colder. AM snow up to 1 inch. Then flurries. Any heavier snow shower can quickly make some roads slippery and reduce visibility. And then later tonight it should be breezy and cold. Rather cloudy this evening, then turning out clear late. Right now we have west winds of 12 miles per hour and wind gusts of 24 miles per hour. And then tomorrow on Tuesday, we'll be having highs of 28 and lows of 24. Some sunshine giving way to clouds, breezy in the afternoon with intermittent snow and flurries with little or no accumulation. And then Wednesday, we'll be having highs of 30 and lows of 7 and should be cloudy with a snow shower.
Small update on the NIPSCO power outages from the windstorm that came overnight. The hardest hit areas are still looking like Munster and Highland. Those guys have a lot. Every community has a few out here and there, but again, with these overhead lines and the wind from the south. I don't know if that's a thing. That's just something my dad always said. The wind's from the north or the south. He was big on that, but. Yeah, from all that wind last night, certainly kept me up, and it's going to keep these NIPSCO crews up for quite a while. Still hovering at about 3,500 folks out in the area. So give those guys some well wishes as they fix the power lines there. Let's just go right to callers. Hello, caller. You are on the air.
Stinky, good morning. Stinky, why you bring up Fox News?
Oh,
Stinky, Trump is bad. Why you talk about Fox?
If you want, we could talk about any news station you want. How about that? You can call in any time, and we'll talk about any news station you want.
Well, Councilman, hold on. $6.99, ma'am. That's a bigger watermelon, and it's all season. Hold on, Stinky. Had to make a sale. Stinky, you bring up Fox News. All they want to talk about right now is Minnesota and the fraud, the Democratic fraud. Why? Why do we want to talk about that? I'm in America. Valenzuela, yes, he was a great pitcher for the Dodgers, but why we got to talk about Fox News and Democratic fraud?
I don't even know what to say other than that is a conversational bouillabaisse of just a mess there. But I do appreciate the call.
Did it happen, Stinky? Was there fraud with these Somalis?
I think we're all going to find out pretty soon. And I think it's because it's so big, I think it's even going to end up on CNN.
Well, I love me some CNN because, they take an unbiased approach.
I feel like I want to join in on this. So,
Well, come on, Stinky.
if they're unbiased, what about MSNBC? Are they the best too?
I have to say, I didn't see anywhere where there was any fraud in Minnesota. Now, that's just something Fox is putting out there. You know Trump. He say anything.
That is so. I come back.
Back to them apartments in Dyer, Stinky. You're racist.
Thanks for calling in. I appreciate that. And that's typically when I dedalo folks is when they call me racists. But thanks for calling in. I appreciate it. Love the impression. Good job. 10 out of 10 would recommend. Next caller?
Nope, no callers.
No callers. Oh man, $5 says they're all working on their impressions. So I do want to say one bit of news here. This was updated a couple days ago. Lake County's Community Foundation, their legacy foundation, just announced about $820,000 in grants going to 48 different organizations, 19 municipalities. When all of these groups, these community groups, everyone's looking for funding. And so the fact that there's organizations out there providing that, some of their organizations, Meals on Wheels, so various arts and culture councils, good on them for some Catholic Charities, Cedar Lake Historical Association. What else do we got here? Down Syndrome Association, Northwest Indiana. Good on them for being good members of the community and, giving some of that out. What else do we have today? The last caller, while entertaining, this Minnesota thing, and I think we'll call it the Minnesota thing because if you say the Somali thing, maybe people would get upset with that. But it's so troubling. As an elected official, I'm very aware of when folks say, "Oh, yeah, we're being taxed too much," and sometimes I want to say, "Okay, hang on. There's really a couple different types of taxes. The state taxes, the federal taxes that they take, the amount of waste that there is in the federal government, the fact that they're looking at numbers of upwards of $18 billion, B, not M, million, B, billion, $18 billion since the whole COVID-19 shenanigans started, have been funneled to these bogus corporations in Minnesota, these bogus businesses that are running bogus daycares, bogus healthcare clinics that are, watching zero children, helping zero people, except for whoever, is getting the money at the tail end of this. If your organization is so big that you lose $18 billion over the course of 5 years and you don't even realize it, it is so difficult every time I get a paycheck every 2 weeks to look and see, okay, where's my money going? And clearly it's going, even if you are, hey, nobody wants a war, but you understand that some of your money's got to go to build an aircraft carrier. So even things you don't necessarily there's some understanding that some of these things need to be paid for. But when you see that amount of fraud, waste, and abuse, you start to think, why even pay taxes when it's just going to go to fraud schemes like that? And I get angsty over that. But you didn't tune in to listen to me. You tuned in to listen to yourself and the callers. So let's go ahead and take the next caller. Thanks for calling in. What you got for us today?
Hey, listen, tough guy. It's Mad Mac. Last time I was in there doing a show, I left a contact case in there. Do you see it anywhere?
Yeah. Hang on one second. Let me get on my hands and knees and look for it.
Yeah, is it it's got to be there somewhere, right?
It's got to be. It's got to be. Actually, if you look in here now, like I said, I wish we could take this camera and pan around. There is nothing in the studio. Nothing. Lynette's got like 2 or 3 computers.
Hey,
There you
you
go.
know what?
If you're watching on YouTube, the zoom out, God's honest truth, it is me and 2 chairs. There is nothing left in this place.
Yeah, when you say there's nothing in there, are you referring to talent, like usually like on D-Lo's day or what?
Oh well, and Chuck's not here.
Ba-dum-ba.
But I am saying here, since you're the one, since you like to call me fat all the time, the way if you're watching on the YouTubes, the way she zoomed out, man, I look good. All you got to do is pan out. That's been the problem all along. The shot has been just way too tight on me.
What, did she zoom out to Indianapolis or something?
Yeah.
But she's got the camera set in Evansville?
Yes. Hubble right now is zooming down on us.
Good Lordy. So when is the big day when you're quote unquote allegedly going to start broadcasting from the other building?
When I send a text around, I keep saying, "Hey guys, I'm here to help. I'm here to help." And every time I come in, there's less and less to do, and that's fantastic. I think they have to be out. I think by the end of the year, which is Wednesday. So my guess is, I don't know. This is between you and me and the wall. My guess is they may just hit play for a couple days and start fresh the first of next week. Is my guess. I don't know. It's the first Monday, so I won't be here. You'll have to deal with Chuck on next Monday. But yeah, that's my understanding. Is coming up here real fast.
Because when you take you play the baby game. When everybody guesses, they're going to be 5 days overdue, 3 days earlier. I'm going to set the over under, let's say at 6.5, and that's the number of days they're going to be off the air. I'm going to take the over for 100.
I'll be honest with you. There are days when I come in thinking, are we going to be live at 6 when we start, or are they going to be messing with wires? So I do that sometimes on a daily basis.
Yeah, we'll be hearing like Jed talking about, I can't believe the Klein Avenue Bridge fell down and 3 injured the Gary Airport is going to start their flights with the wing company. What was that? What's that wing company called? What the hell are they? Hot Wings or Hooters? Hooters Airline. They're coming to Gary.
Hot Wings Air. I think that was a missed opportunity from them.
Yeah, this is Jimmy Deedlow on a podcast live from 1974. I just got out of a trench. I'm a union man, I dig with my hands. And holy moly, if we hear that crap for another 8 weeks, I bet it's coming.
I personally love the 7:00 impressions hour here on WJOB. That's been fun for me. I do have to say, and I text them all the time. I say the amount of I'm going to put on my self-promotion hat here. So I do this show with Chuck. I do the Region Republican show once a month. I do the Town of Dyer show once a month. They're now housing. I do a personal podcast on the side called Dad Bod Walking, and they now house a version of that here, and that plays. And it's like, dude, I'm creating a part of 3-4 hours a week of content here. How come I'm always hearing the same show all the time, every time I tune in? But I've been told they have a whole new system that once we're in place, they're going to hit play, and you're going to hear a variety of new and current content all the time. That's what I hear.
Yeah, I'll put another 100.
I was just gonna say, are we placing more bets on that?
Yeah, no chance of that happening. Yeah, and then we'll turn on the Jed TV thing, and we'll be seeing the Munster Ham and High game for like the 888,000th time. Oh Lord! Hey, so by the way, just as a reminder, it's not called MSNBC; it's MSN Pow or something, or MSN Wow now.
Yeah, they changed it for something. Every time something needs to. They need to rebrand something. They just changed the name of it, more than a logo. And I think they wanted to get away from the what were they calling it for a long time? They were shackled with the MSDNC. They were shackled with that. So I think that
was a fake one, yeah. But now they've decided it's going to be MSNBC Pow, and it is A new moniker, a new look, but just as dumb. That's their corporate slogan.
MSNBC POW. What does that stand for?
Pow,
something?
wow, now, something like that. Whatever. It doesn't even matter. It's the same.
Same bogus.
Same malarkey. But hey, listen, don't avoid the word Somali when you talk about the Minnesota thing, because it's 100% Somali. So don't try to sugarcoat it. Don't try to make it something it's not. It's not a bunch of Catholics doing anything up there. It's not the Polish. It's not the Serbians. It's the Somalis. That's what you know what their GDP is in Somalia?
It's like 13 billion or something.
99% of it. That's what they do over there. They get money and then they all fight to steal it. And that's it. That's the entire economy. It looks like the streets in Gary where they don't have stoplights that have electricity, they duct tape stop signs to them. That's their entire economy. So they just simply duplicated it in Minneapolis. I've been there like 3 times. I've ridden a bike through it. I've driven through it. And it's as disgusting as you can imagine, man. You're a white guy walking through there, you might as well be walking through naked with neon signs on your body, because they're all looking at you going, why are you here? We know you're coming to try to figure out what we're doing. We're not going to tell you, and we're going to keep taking your goddamn money, you stupid-ass taxpayer. So keep paying, because we need to keep stealing. And that's how they roll. And if anybody wants to dispute me about it, you want to take a car ride, I'll be more than happy to take you up there. But that's what they do. It's $20 billion in the Minneapolis area. It's about $4 billion now. They're finding out in Ohio. They're out about $2 billion in Maine, and I think there's a little place in Michigan where the Somalis are pulling that off. So when Donald Trump says it's an S-hole country, it is. And what are the people? The people are the exact same way. They're S-hole people. All they're doing is stealing everything that they can possibly get their hands on. And go to your glorious New York Times and read the articles about it. Even they have to tell the truth about it.
Well, so I in what is clearly the smallest show prep ever that I did today, I was looking at that, and some of these, what do you call them, legacy news outlets, whatever they like to call themselves, but again, like your New York Times.
You mean liberal news outlets?
Yeah, that are so far to the left. Even it is so bad and so prolific that even they are required to report on it, because it is so awful. And I forget.
Well, they're not required. Don't think they're required to do anything.
Well, it's so bad that I don't know what else you would call it, because the amount of times that they ignore everything else, that this is so big. That's when I knew something was up, when some, one of those lefty rags, and whatever, that the fact that they're reporting on these scams and schemes, it's like, you know it had to be bad. And that's what I'm waiting for too, as you had mentioned, Maine and Ohio and some in Michigan. If someone found this $18 billion, $20 billion, whatever it ends up being in Minnesota, it's got to be in other blue states. You just know it has to be. And
it's the same trick. They've mastered fraudulent accounting, and everybody up there is in on it. This is like the folks who go, "Oh, the people of Gaza, they're all really nice and they're good people." Really? They're so nice. There's not a single Arab country that wants to take a single one of them. Egypt doesn't want them. Jordan doesn't want them. The West Bank doesn't want them. Saudi Arabia doesn't want them. Omar doesn't want them. Nobody wants them, because the indoctrination that has gone through and allowed to go through that country to say the Jews are evil, the Jews are devils. They're taught this when they're like 2 and 3 years old. There was a stretch coming out of COVID at the movie theaters when they're simply running, they're trying to get anybody to come in there to see anything. And they also then took the opportunity, instead of running, all the Hollywood budgeted movies, they ran like some I guess you might say like documentary type movies, and I probably went and saw about 4 of them just because I love to go over there just to see how the destruction is un you can't even comprehend it, particularly if you had a chance to see it in real life. Now you're seeing it on a giant screen, and it's simply startling to see just how bad things are, and you feel sorry for them. But then again, when you walk around and you're teaching your 4-year-old to say, "Kill the Jews, hate the Jews, down with America," when you go attack the Jews, they're not going to really tolerate that for too long. And finally, they decided we've had enough, and we're going to push Gaza right into the Red Sea. But it's a terrible state. But that's what they do. Yemen, what do? They bomb everything they see that's floating in the Red Sea. That's what they do. And when you do those things, you're going to have to suffer the consequences. You can't go around in Africa killing all the Christians just because you think Christians are bad people. And you're going to take some Tomahawk missiles, right to the noggin. And that's thank God we got a man in the office as President of the United States who's defending our country and defending Christianity. And it's a good thing, but it's going to hurt, and it's going to hurt for a while. Now we're up against some really bad stuff from that quote-unquote religion of peace called Muslimism, made up by a guy in a ditch in 600 AD. Just isn't working out so well, that's all. But like I said, thank God for Donald Trump, though. Hey, and thank God for you, Bob, for coming in today, too, by the way.
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate you calling in and all the love.
Happy New Year, and stay off the streets, okay?
I will. I'll do that. Hey, thanks for calling in. We're going to take a break here at 7:25 here at WJOB in Rustic, Hammond, Indiana. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. It is 7:29 here in Northwest Indiana on WJOB 1230 AM 104.7 FM. We've got a bunch of callers here, so let's just get right back into the next one.
Bob,
Yeah.
isn't it? You can't use no GD, that curse word that guy used on the radio, can you? He got cut off this week by Burley and Jed was on, and he used that, and Burley actually they cut him off. That's a no.
I don't believe.
Are you aware of that?
I don't believe he. I think he said darn or something. He didn't say the phrase because I was listening to it.
Yeah, yes he did. He used God, and if Jed is listening, Jed, you listen. That's what he said. God dang, God. Yes, he did.
Well,
and I'm just simply saying, this is the same guy was banned from this radio station for some time, but he's touching women on the rear end, allegedly, I should say. Okay, but I'm going. I didn't intend to call back, but that's not bad for him to be doing that.
Well,
okay.
Thanks for calling in. Appreciate it. You have a good one. Next caller, how's it going?
Good morning, Bob.
Good morning.
I'm still looking for my producer's job, but it's getting close. It's getting close. I might be you and Chuck's producer, but I got to ask you a real serious question.
Yeah.
You know, he's a good friend of mine, Ron, steelworker Ron.
Mm-hmm.
He's a good friend of mine. I see him over there at the hospital. And I do want to get into the Somalia thing. I got a lot of experience with that. But I would like for Ron to call in and say who they're going to support on the Democratic ticket for president. Now, here's their hopefuls, okay? I hear they got Jasmine Crockett. I hear they got AOC. I like for Ron to call in, my buddy, because we shook hands. You know, this is just radio. I would like for him to call in and who he thinks the next president of the United States nomination would be on the Democratic side. I don't see Harris got beat. I'm thinking their hopefuls are AOC is going to be president and Jasmine Crockett is going to be vice president, and Putin will laugh so hard we will be just like Ukraine. So please do that, Ron, because I am a registered Democrat. I voted Obama twice. And Ron, the reason why I voted for Trump was because Hillary was going to install the Trans-Pacific Partnership. We are both retirees from Local 1010, me and Ron, steelworker Ron. And we probably wouldn't have a pension right now, and we probably wouldn't have any benefits. So the first day of office, Ron, Trump made an executive order to get rid of Trans-Pacific Partnership. And I want to answer Ron's question about Biden getting the most votes. That depends what news source you listen to. But things were going real good when Trump got rid of Trans-Pacific Partnership. That was for metal, too, for aluminum.
Yeah.
Just about everything. So, lo and behold, here comes Biden. He gets rid of the Trans-Pacific Partnership on 2021 in October. Him and Mervyn get together, who's the guy who I didn't shake hands with, that the people behind me were jumping over my back to shake hands with him, and they didn't know why I did it. As soon as Biden got in there and give our jobs to the to the European Union, it was over the climate power plan, the climate plan, right?
Right.
Now, I've got no use for Holcomb, and this Green Deal, where they put in all these power plants. I mean, all these windmills and all these, what do they call them things? The sun hits solar power.
Yeah, that only works half the time.
Now, if you look at your NIPSCO bill this month, you're going to freak. And that's because Biden's Inflation Act. And the Inflation Act and Trans-Climate Plan, they're going to tax NIPSCO, and NIPSCO has to put all this stuff up because Mervyn and Biden were into green energy. In fact, Biden was into nothing but mumbling. He was a total disaster for this country. But I don't see how Ron could be so mad at Trump every day of his life. He wakes up being mad at Trump, and that's okay. That's okay. And, he makes it to be good radio. But Trump is the only one that helped you save your pension, Ron. Now, let's go into the Somali thing. I got real good experience with Minnesota. I've only been up there 52 times.
I thought you were going to say you had real good experience with Somalis.
52 times. Were you born in 1982, Bob?
Yes, I was.
How old were you?
How old am I now?
No, how old were you in 1982?
I was born in 1982.
That's the first year I started going to Minnesota. Okay? What a beautiful place. St. Cloud, oh my goodness. The sun was so bright. And, the daylight lasted from, started at 4:30 in the morning to, I'm no kidding, about 10:15 at night. And then, I started going through there, and the resort owner knows me since 1982, and he said, Perry, well, he's got another name for me besides Perry. He said, you know what, I don't want you in the forest after 12:30. I said, what's with that? And then around 2016, he says, I don't want you up in the forest no more, the Chippewa National Forest. He doesn't want me fishing in there by myself anymore. So right around 2018, I went through, I'm not going to say what place it was. It was close to Minneapolis. We used to go right through Minneapolis before we started taking the 694 bypass, east and north, west and north.
Yeah.
Go through Brainerd. And one of the gas stations I stopped at, I actually, it was at night, and I slithered right back into my truck. I'm pretty tough. I was half tough back then, not anymore. And I know
but you got one good one left in you?
No, I'm done. So, well, I got to keep it for my producer job. This is going to happen. I'm telling you.
This is going to happen. It could. I don't know that you'll hit the Chuck and Bob show, but it could be. We're only Lynette's second favorite show, so she may be perfectly fine ditching us, and then we would be rudderless. Yeah. So.
Well, I'm probably going to go with you, and Tom's going to have Lynette. Lynette's okay with that.
Of course, that's her favorite guy. It's a favorite guy. I don't know why I'm.
I run a really good site, as you see, and we're pretty political savvy, and that's why they keep shutting us down.
Yeah.
But the thing of it is I don't go up there no more. And it's a shame that it ended up like that these Somalis, and now this is and I voted Obama twice, and I got beat up for it, and now I see where I did wrong. Obama was the one that planted them Somalis in there. From everything I read and everything I hear, and I listen to everything, and these daycare centers, there's no such thing. It's almost like there's no such thing as the kids in the daycare. What's his name? Nick Shirley.
Yeah, Nick Shirley. I think he's in his 20s. He's got a YouTube channel, and he was going around with a camera and trying to get in on these places. And in the building, it was it was incredible. They were large, commercial buildings, and they would, each door down each hall was a different daycare or some other quote unquote. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm doing the air quotes. Business, run by some of these now Somali benefactors that. That he would present them. He'd say, "Look, okay, you are, ABC daycare, and it shows here that you are responsible for 102 kids. Where are the kids?" And nobody was there. And then he'd walk down the hall and he'd say, "You're responsible for these many kids. Where are the kids?" No kids anywhere. Total scam.
Now, I did on my Christmas show. We're up to 380 views. I did put a good word in for Kuziak. Kuziak, I know he got the litter bottle, just in case he gets the urge. But Kuziak has a lot of passion. I see him at Van Til's. He says hi to me. He's real nice, and he's going to be back. But I'm probably going to be producing for you guys. And the deal is, I'm not going to say anything unless I'm talked to. Okay. Now the Somali Mimi, and I don't know how much longer we could stretch out of this. Opie and Andy are in Mayberry, right? And that's actually what Minnesota was Mayberry until they took down the Paul Bunyan.
Yeah.
Both of them are laughing, Opie and Andy.
Opie and Andy.
And Opie asks, "Pa, what's a daycare center?" And Andy replies, "It's a place where Democrats steal taxpayers' money and send it to Somalia." But why I mentioned Kuziak is because, we can all complain, but how are you going to solve the problem? That's one thing I'll always remember. So I want Ron to call in, and I got a lot of respect for Ron because he was there at the hospital for Trucker Mike. And I want him to call in because without Ron, there isn't really a WJOV. And I want him to call in, and I want him to say who they're going to run for president. I think that would be kind of a legit thing. I'm not making fun of him, not making fun of his name or the way he talks, but God bless you, Ron, and keep up the good work. I got to go.
Well, thanks for calling in. You had... this is something that Chuck harps on a lot about is, who is going to be some of the Democrat front runners for president in a few years. And some of the good things that Trump is attempting to do, folks like Pritzker or Gavin Newsom, it's impossible for them to go along with, even if Trump wanted to do something that they agreed with that would be beneficial for their residents. If you've got some presidential aspirations on the left, you can't be seen, in the same state as Donald Trump. And I think you had said, look, AOC and Crockett are up there. I do not know what they bring to the table aside from, it's going to be decent fodder for news clips. The right will eviscerate them for having zero experience in anything whatsoever. But I also don't see them being top of the ticket and having someone like a Pritzker or a Newsom play second fiddle to that. That won't happen. So maybe if we're putting bets down, what's that betting site? Kashi, whatever it is. I wonder what the going bet is. For that in Vegas at the moment, but my guess is you're probably going to see a Pritzker, type person run, and then one of these just show horses will run for vice president. That's my guess now. Who knows? What do I know? Do we have any? What do we got? We got two. So a half boat. Let's go ahead and take the next caller.
Hello.
Thanks for calling. How's it going?
Seems okay. The wookest Democrats, they don't just hate Trump. They hate his supporters. which is over at least half the country. Not a little bit. I mean, these are people who always like to talk about haters and, how much they hate haters and so forth. Truth of the matter is they're the biggest haters of all. That's fairly typical of Democrats. You wonder why. Why do you think?
One thing that I've experienced here, not directly. Nobody's ever called into the station and says, "Hey, Bob, you're on the radio. You are XYZ." But I hear a lot of times, when they'll call Trump supporters, the red hatters or the MAGA folks, and I think, well, first off, A, you don't know me, but B, there is this drive, especially on the left, to put everybody into one deplorable basket because it makes it easier to build a coalition of all of their different identity groups and say, well, you may be disenfranchised over here, but because that half over there really hates everything you stand for. And so there's a business and a grift on the left to call everybody on the right just racist, bigot, immoral, whatever.
Nazis.
Yeah, whatever the flavor word of the day is. They'll say, Nazis, fascist is a big one. And I don't know. As soon as I hear
what a Nazi's like.
Right. As soon as I hear words like that, I think, well, you're simply just parroting something, and
they are parrots.
Yeah,
they're bird brains. But in any case, it's they just are incapable of thinking rational thoughts, and why any conservative ever wants to talk to those people is beyond my comprehension. But we got a lot of conservatives, stupid conservatives, who think they're going to. It's like getting the Pope to become a Muslim kind of thing. But the subject of the day seems to be the Somalis, and especially Minnesota. This is a piece out of. Are you familiar with the magazine Washington Examiner?
Yes.
The current edition, December 10th, is a piece by Daniel Hannan on page 61. Hannan is a member of the British House of Lords and a former conservative parliamentarian. And his piece is headlined, "Not All Immigrants Are Equal." And he says here, this is a reminder that not all cultures are equal. Minnesota's political structures were designed in Scandinavia for Scandinavians who are famously industrious with a high level of social trust that has allowed them to sustain ambitious welfare programs with little abuse. It turns out that Somalis do not respond to such schemes in the way that Swedes do. Instead of simply overclaiming as your unambitious American fraudster might, locals set up bogus companies to make fictitious claims running into hundreds of millions of dollars. Some of the money went on cars and holidays, but a chunk found its way to Al-Qaeda-aligned Islamists in Somalia, where remittances from overseas amount to a larger sum than the state budget. How about that? I recommend this the whole piece. I've just I just read a couple of paragraphs out of it, but there's another side to this, and that is that the Swedes have this mess to thank themselves because they bent over backwards to accommodate so-called people of color. You see, I have relatives who live in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area, and I go up there to visit them from time to time. And I remember one time they had a guest in the house who was a social worker and for Minnesota's social welfare agency. And she was complaining about how the Somalis were taking advantage of the situation, of the social welfare system, but that she dared not complain about it because if she did, she could lose her job. for being a racist, for pointing out the obvious. So the Swedes have themselves, the Minnesota Swedes have themselves to thank for this mess. Well, we do, because they didn't have the patriotism, they didn't have the common sense to suggest that if you're a thief, you're a thief, irrespective of what your color is, and you should be held to account. And if you think the rich social welfare programs that Minnesota Swedes built, if you really cared about it, you'd want to protect it from out-and-out scamsters. But they didn't, and so they have to suffer the consequences. That's all. And that's a lesson that Americans should learn across the board. What do you think?
You know, the fact that I say we, when really it appears to be this, again, 20-something-year-old kid with a YouTube channel, which, I mean, you know, what a world we live in that you know, it sounds like there was some investigations in place, but, you know, when you have art, when you have video, when you have, you know, something that people can look at because we're visual creatures, you know, it really puts something on this news. And I still say, and, you know, earlier we had talked about in the show, there was, you know, looks like there may be something in Michigan, something in Ohio, something in Maine. If the grift was so good out of Minnesota, the last number I saw was 18 billion. You know, it may be more now. It will probably be more. If it was 18 billion out of just one state, you know that why reinvent the wheel? You know it has to be going on in other places.
Of course.
And so to see the totality of that, and I could be wrong, as much as I'm sitting here with a laptop and I could have Googled while you were talking, I just haven't yet, but I thought I saw somewhere that the GDP of Somalia was something like $13 billion annually, and these folks here have somehow grifted more than that. Now, granted, it was over the last 4 or 5 years, but still, they've grifted more than the GDP of their own country. And again, that 18 billion, for folks that are listening, that's billion, not million, $18 billion, that it just up and vanished is incredible to me.
Well, the roots of all this goes back to the mid-'60s. And that is a time when the federal establishment was totally dominated by Democrats. The Congress was dominated by Democrats, the House, the Senate. You had Lyndon Johnson as President of the United States, a big-time...
One of the worst presidents that we've ever had, yes.
Sure. And, of course, the federal Supreme Court was totally dominated by Democrats. And they initiated, the Democrats, particularly Teddy Kennedy, another wonderful Democrat. Any case, a man with endless scandals, including the death of an innocent woman in his car. In any case, they pushed for reforming immigration law, and they basically said, you know, we need to expand our horizons. We need to bring a few more people from other than Europe. And of course, this country was as we know it, was built by Christian Europeans. And in the beginning, from Western Europe and eventually Eastern Europe. Now, a couple of Chinese communist business professors studied American history and had to ask the question, how is it that a country is agricultural and small like the early American Republic, how could they rise to such prominence in the world in terms of science, agriculture, military, and so forth? And what they concluded was there are two elements as to what motivated all this. And the first thing is the respect for the nuclear family. You go to places like Somalia, they've never heard of the concept of nuclear family. The second thing is Christian values. And those are the things that are under attack by the Democrats today. But you had people like back in the 60s, you had politicians like Hubert Humphrey, who was a senator from Minnesota. And when the Republicans criticized the change in these so-called reforms and predicted that this would change the character of the American country, his response was, absolutely not. And if it does, I'll eat your hat. Well, Mr. Humphrey, let's resuscitate you. I've got a couple of hats I'd like to give you to eat, kind of thing, because you have created disaster. Our big cities have the aroma of being a third world country, given the high levels of violence, misuse of public treasury, and so forth. But hey, for anybody who believes the Democrat propaganda line of, we want to save democracy and so forth, that's a bunch of crap. All that is about free stuff, and they're not talking about it now, but you put people in like Newsom as president and so forth, and they're going to suddenly start talking about the importance of protecting transvestites' rights, and they still want to put guys into women's bathrooms and into the changing rooms of women's sports and so forth. I mean, it's just they haven't given up on that for a second, because I read their propaganda material, and it's hair raising as to how far they want to move this country down the road of moral degeneracy, and they want to spread Chicago and Los Angeles and New York to the rest of the country. That's their objective.
And they can keep those cities for themselves. I'm going to have to let you go. I was getting the signal for a break here. We will meet everyone back at the top of the hour. Thanks to all the callers for calling in, and we'll see you in just a few minutes. It is 8:03 here at the very empty WJOB studios here in Hammond, Indiana. 12:30 a.m., 104.7 FM, and streaming live on YouTube. Look for us at WJOB 1230, and you get to see myself and Lynette, and you get to see this wonderful paper mache snake that my son made in art class, and you get to see the best prize present that anybody could receive. Again, fathers out there, thank you for trying so hard last year to be great parents to your kids. I clearly have been named number one dad, as evidenced by this hat that Liam got me. So, thanks for tuning in here to the airwaves. Traffic, every time I hit refresh on this, it gets redder and redder and redder. It looks like there is an accident at 8094 westbound, right at 41 between 41 north, so Calumet Avenue, exit 1 right over there. And that backup looks like it goes all the way past Klein. That's looking bad. 65 southbound is also looking rough between Ridge and 61st. Not to mention there was an accident on the right shoulder at 894 and Clay Street. This is all Indiana. And it gets very slow once you get into Illinois. Everything's yellow. Just slow down. I've been in the studio for the last few hours, but if it's anything like it was at 5:30 this morning, slow down, take your time. And clearly, if you're on 8094, you're not going that fast right now anyways. Lynette, what's the weather look like for the last half hour of the show?
Good morning, everyone. Today we're at 17 degrees with highs of 27 and lows of 12. It's going to be mostly cloudy, windy, and much colder. Morning snow up to 1 inch, then afternoon flurries. Watch for slippery travel. Areas of blowing snow will reduce visibility. And then later tonight we'll be having breezy and cold, rather cloudy this evening, then turn out clear late. Right now we have west 11 miles per hour wind with wind gusts of 21 miles per hour. And then tomorrow on Tuesday we'll be having highs of 28 and lows of 24. Some sunshine giving way to clouds, breezy in the afternoon with intermittent snow and flurries with little or no accumulation. And then Wednesday we'll be having highs of 30 and lows of 7. It should be cloudy with a snow shower.
Snow after Christmas. You couldn't make it on Christmas, make a nice white Christmas. I'm bummed about that, but what are you going to do? We've got about a half hour left in this show, maybe about 20 minutes. A couple shows coming up here. We've got the Town of Dyer show. Some folks from Dyer are coming in at about 8:30, a little after, to talk about some year-end wrap-up stuff, what to look forward to next year. After that, they've got the Region Republican show, which I'll be hosting that one. That's a little after 9. And then I think we've got our next live show is at 11, if I'm not mistaken. And who is that, Lynette?
Spark Speaks.
Spark Speaks. They'll be coming on at 11. So stick with us. We've got some good things coming up here on the airwaves. We've got a caller. Let's have him. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. What's on your mind?
Well, first of all, congratulations on the recent award of number one dad.
I appreciate that. I debated whether or not to wear this because I knew that the thousands of people that would watch this broadcast would, maybe they would feel bad that they didn't get it. But hopefully this is an inspiration to fathers all across the nation that you too, if you try, can be number one dad.
Yes, absolutely. We're getting to the end of the year, and I'm going to do the same thing that I've done in past years, and I'm going to challenge all the listeners and basically everybody that's a Region Rat to think before they speak when they start talking about political affiliations. The last two callers you had, wow, they are so horrible about generalizing, and they don't look at people for who they are rather than what they are. And, for example, you had one caller that said that, the president's out there and he's promoting Christianity and everything else. Well, that's got to be one of the biggest pieces of bunk I've ever heard. Because if that was the case, he wouldn't be degrading people. He wouldn't be talking down to people. He wouldn't say people are, they have this issue and that issue. He wouldn't be, what's the saying from the Bible? Like, ye who doesn't have sin cast the first stone.
Right.
Okay. All right. So that Christianity thing is out the window on that one. Second of all, he had a caller, one of the last two callers, stated that half of America likes Trump. Well, that's not true, because if you look at the statistics from either Republicans or the Democrats, not even half the Republicans like Trump anymore. Okay, so let's be honest, all right? If you're a Trump person, you're a Trump person. Me, I am not a Trump person. I'm not a Republican. I'm what I consider myself to be a conservative. Okay, there are Republican people that I like. You and I have talked on the phone. I have no problem with you, as far as I know. You don't have any problem with me. So I have good friends that are Republicans. So be it. Everybody's got their own little niche. Unless going forward in the 26th, I challenge everybody to not look at party affiliation. I ask them to look at the person. I've said this for years. One of the things we need to do with our ballot is get rid of the straight party ticket options on the ballot, which could possibly hurt Democrats and Republicans. But you know what? Let's get people to start thinking and looking at the candidate rather than looking at the party.
And you're right on that. Depending on, we'll just take Indiana, for example. Depending on where you're at in Indiana, that could hurt certain parties. I really think in places like Lake County, that would hurt the Democrat Party, especially for county level elections. And certainly municipal spots, because people tend to, everybody loves voting for the higher offices, and that's where most folks tend to, I don't want to say they maybe align with it, but that's where they just get the most, juice out of going in there and pressing that R or D ballot, because they're voting for the person at the top of the ticket. And especially where that hurts folks is the closer you get to the municipal level, the less Republican and Democrat, it matters. On a municipal level, you're not dealing with life or gun rights or border issues. You're dealing with parks, police, and paving. So, you may just have to argue which way around the barn you want to go for that. But then in other places, it certainly might hurt Republican voters. And I have zero problem getting rid of straight ticket voters, especially when you go in. And you can go to the Lake County Board of Elections website. They have all the lists of, all the different vote tabulations. And check out the amount of people that just go in, hit the straight party vote, and leave. Are they voting for one person and just accepting the rest of the ballot as a party? I don't know.
Oh, I believe that is. I mean, I'll give you an example. My state rep, and I'm not going to mention the person's name, but my state rep is absolutely useless for thinking on their own behalf. They've even come out in public forums and stated that they would talk to their spouse about issues rather than coming up with a decision on their own, because they didn't have an opinion. They literally stated they didn't have an opinion, but they were going to ask their spouse and see what they thought. Okay, and I've also seen where elected officials have had to switch parties so that way they can get more accomplished. Okay?
We've seen that. I think that's probably prevalent. Again, here in Lake County, I know some Democrat elected officials, especially ones that are, north of 30, where they run as a Democrat because that's where they can get elected, but they have, really decent conservative thinking ideologies that. But they know that, hey, here in Lake County, unless you're a one-off like a Hank Adams, when was that? 2008, 2010, whenever that was when he won. It's not going to do anything. But also to say that, I know there's also folks. Let's go then south of 30 that are, and I see this in communities that are Republican-dominated communities, that members of their, even some of their town council races, are, I hate using the term rhino because that's like the current buzzword. But again, they want the R after their name because they know that's the only way they'll get elected in that community. And so it really does, work on both sides. And if you eliminated straight ballot voting, then you have one of two things. You either have to manually go through and just hit D all the way down, which at that point we're probably not going to change their mind anyways, or it gives you an opportunity when you get down to, dog catcher. Hey, which one of these people, have I had an experience with, relate with, has won over my vote? So perhaps that is something that they should look at.
And it's even gotten worse. And not to knock your party, Bob, but I got to say, what in the heck were they thinking downstate when they said that you now have to have party affiliation to be on the school board? That is the last place we need to have any party affiliation.
Well, and I think so. I had both on my podcast. Just a small plug for that. Dad Bod Walking. Go check it out there. Look for the episode with a gentleman named Tim Vassar. He's an elected school board official. We even had him on one of the other shows here. And he and I talked about that. He's a Republican. You talk with him for 5 minutes, and you know that he most likely has an R after his name instead of a D. And he, for the same reason, said, look, you're voting for me and what I bring to the table here. You're looking at my experience as an educator, as an administrator, as a public servant. The problem with putting the R or D after your name with these school board races now is that, whatever you claim to be, you now wear the cloak of that party with you. And for some folks, that's exactly what they wanted. It is certainly going to have an impact in places. I think it's going to have more of an impact in places that are, we'll say, Republican strongholds. I think you're going to see shifts in, school boards with Lake Central, with Hanover, with Tri Creek, Lowell, going down that way, because I think a lot of these folks, first off, are going to be ineligible to run. In order to, a lot of these folks, they haven't voted in primaries before, so they don't have an R or a D after their name, as the election board would have it. And the law states that the last two consecutive primaries you voted in, whatever that may be, Republican or Democrat, that's then who you are. The other way around that is you can have the county party of either Republican or Democrat sign off and basically certify and bless that you are who they say they are. I'm not going to speak for either party chairman here, but I have a hard time thinking that they're going to, unless they have somehow won them over, they're not going to certify some of these folks as Republican or Democrat, meaning in places like Hanover Township or even Lake Central, not Hanover Township, Hanover Schools or Lake Central School Corporation, where two of the three communities are just solid Republican, at least very very red purple color. Some of those folks, when they declare, they're going to have to say, well, I'm a Republican if they want to be reelected, but who knows if they'll get certified. So you may see a turnover in these, and maybe in some places it's not a bad idea, but it certainly is going to be very disruptive, and I'm still not sure what it accomplishes. Now, folks from my side may call in and say, well, we want, they're all liberals on the school board, and we need to get them all out. And I say, okay, well, what are we replacing them with? and that's an answer that I still haven't heard, at least in our circles, is who are we going to replace them with?
Which is where I have a problem, because then you're going to have people like you do in so many other races where people are just going to be putting in somebody just to have somebody from that letter.
Yes.
You know, and that's wrong. We're talking about the education, the future of our society, and this is it's so wrong on so many levels.
Well, and school board members, like you said, you know, the hope is we don't always see this in practice. We just don't always see this in practice. But the hope is that they're nonpartisan. They just, you know, they're there for the students. They're there for, you know, the educators. Like I said, in practice, we know that doesn't happen. I don't want a bunch of callers saying, well, you know, this person. We get it. It doesn't happen in perfect practice all the time. But that's the goal to it. We also know that in primaries, the more extreme of the parties tends to come out in primaries. So in a Republican primary, the righter you are, the more chance you have of winning a Republican primary. Same with the Democrat side. The more left you are, the better chances you have of winning that primary. It's those centrist folks that have a, you know, middle of the road mentality that most of the country is in. You look at those undecided voters, and most of the country fits into, yeah, I might be Republican or Democrat, but I see a little bit of this on either side. And so, yeah, that is going to be an interesting, because that's going to be the next couple of cycles here, is we're going to see, you know, what happens on those school boards. And I just, you know, mark it here at 8:20 in the morning on December 29th. I think you're going to see some shakeups, especially in those communities that are, you know, have more Republican leanings. I think you're going to see some shakeups on those school boards. I don't agree with it. I can kind of get the sense of why they went that way, but I don't think it was the best idea. But
so like I said, I ask everybody to stop looking at the R or the D and start looking at the person's qualifications.
I had one last comment I'll say with that is before, because we're going to be wrapping up here in a few minutes. The first time I ran for town council, and this isn't the Bob Starkey town council show, but this is a story I have that plays exactly into your conversation. It's 2019, and I'm going out there, and I've got maybe, you know, a little Republican elephant on my website, but I don't have the word Republican blasted all over. Again, I think if you know, we have a conversation within a couple minutes, you probably know that's where I'm at. You look at some of my work history, some of the things. Again, it's become self-evident.
Agreed. Agreed, and I'm the same way.
I didn't feel the need to put it massively on you know, yard signs or anything like that. It's just, again, I'm Bob. I live in Dyer. This is what I have to offer. If you like it, vote for me. I had someone reach out to me towards, you know, election time saying, hey, I want a yard sign. You know, I read your stuff. I like it. Give me a yard sign. I was like, you know, if you've ever run for office before, you know that, hey, yard sign placement, especially here in Northwest Indiana, we all love our yard sign placements. So I go and I put a yard sign out. A couple days later, I get a call that says, hey, you got to come pull this sign. And I was like, oh, is there, you know, conversation do we need to have? Does something come up? She goes, I didn't realize you were a Republican. Oh, okay. And so all of a sudden, everything that I had said through social media and, you know, mail and phone call, whatever it was, that was all fine until it was, oh, you're a Republican, I can't have your yard sign. And it's like, well, you know, who you want to vote for? You want to vote for a person or a letter? And so that is my experience with the, as soon as you put on that that cloak, some folks you know, just run with it. But I got to let you go. We've got one more call. Thanks for calling in. I appreciate it. And really all the listeners, take that to heart. You know, do a little bit of research and you know, see who these folks are. I think we got one more caller. All right, caller, you're the last one for the day, and really you're the last caller for the Monday morning show of 2025. Let's make it a good one. What you got?
Hey, Bob, that last caller's right. First of all, good morning. How are you?
Fantastic. How are you doing?
Good. That last caller's right. But why would you want a D in front of your name with everything that party has done? Trump is not perfect, but what was the alternative? Harris, Biden? Here's where we would be under Harris, Biden, Bob. Hey, let those drug boats come in. Hey, looking at my daughter, baby, I know you trained hard for this, but that boy was just better than you.
Oh, I know, and there's
fraud,
there's
the fraud,
one
Bob,
of the colors.
Let me go to my blue collar job and bust my rear end to give you my tax money to go to all this fraud. That's perfect. The illegals, yeah, you have to wear a mask. You have to have insurance, but these illegals can come in not knowing what they bring in. And the last one would be the crime under the illegals. So why would you want a D in front of your name and belong to that party? At what point do you go, you know what? What we as the Democrat Party is doing is wrong, and I can't associate with you anymore. Riddle me that one, Councilman.
I wouldn't disagree with a lick of that. And again, I think that for that same reason of especially on a even going down to local level, why would you want a D after your name in some of these races? And that's for the same reason. If you wanted to get elected, why would you want an R after your name in North County? It's just not going to get you anywhere. But that D after your name, there's something about it that right now, midterm elections, D's will probably take the House, and not because they have a better message, but because that's typically what happens after an election. The opposite party typically picks up more more votes, but I don't know. I get what you're saying, though. Appreciate the call.
Thanks, Bob.
Take care. I am going to bring in just because I like him. I'm going to bring. I've got someone out here, a guy named Brian Lane. Brian, come in here for a second. I'm going to put Brian on headset number 1. Now, headset the pink one right there. Now, we're just going to talk for a few minutes here. You are probably one of the biggest IU fans that I know. You travel all over the place to watch IU games. You go to tailgating. You've got the pants for it. I know absolutely nothing about college football, but evidently it's the big hot topic right now. I want you, and this is totally unprompted. He's thinking, oh, what's he going to ask me? Totally unprompted. What's going on with IU football is someone said, I love commentators are like, oh, this is a Cinderella story. I have no clue what any of those commentators made, but tell everyone your take on what's going on with IU football right now.
Well, as a lot of people would say, for a long time, Indiana's been known as a basketball school, state of Indiana in basketball, but lately, and it even started back, I believe, in like 2020 when Tom Allen was there. We had some couple good seasons where we won, a few games, but these last 2 years, there's been nothing like it in my time watching Indiana football, and it's just very exciting to go undefeated this year, to beat Ohio State. I mean, things like that just doesn't happen for Indiana football.
Well, and I had, and again, I've known you for a number of years now through working with you at the Tom Tire. You've been an IU fan for a long time. I always knew folks that were season ticket holders that could not give away their tickets. And now they're the absolute hottest commodity. Are you a season ticket holder, or are you just going out there buying tickets? Because you're going to all these games.
I do. I try to go to as many games as I can. I'm not a season ticket holder. I buy my tickets, through friends or secondary markets, and they have become crazy. Back in the day when I was down in the Bloomington early 90s, there were more people at tailgating than there were inside watching the game. And if you did go in the game by halftime, you were leaving and you probably weren't coming back.
Yeah.
So, but today it's way different. To see game day come to Bloomington, that was just insane. You usually think of them being in the SEC or in Michigan or at Ohio State, but to come to Indiana was just, for all those kids, they just don't know what they got that are living in Bloomington right now, getting to experience all this.
Especially when you have that history of, and the only thing I have to go on, again, I'm not a college football guy, but I have a few friends that are season ticket holders, and they've said that story of, look, we've been here through thick and thin. Obviously, we're season ticket holders for a reason. We like going, whether they went there, in their youth, or there's some nostalgia with it. But they said now all these people are clamoring for their tickets, and to use your words, the people down there have no clue how good they have it right now. Where some of these other colleges, it's kind of old hat for them. It's expected, but to have this type of thing happen to IU here in Bloomington, here in Indiana, is something special, I think.
Yeah, it's amazing. I saw some news reports how the airlines had to add more flights from Indianapolis to California because they're going to be playing in the Rose Bowl against Alabama on January 1st. So it's going to be a big game.
Well, that'll be fun. Hey, we're going to wrap it up here for a second. Brian Lane, he's our Director of Operations at the Town of Dyer. He'll be on the Town of Dyer show here in a few minutes. I just thought I'd bring him on because he came in and he was, well, you were the guy wandering the halls that I caught your eye. So thanks for coming in and talking a little bit about IU football. I am signing off here for the last time at this studio on the morning show. It is 8:29 a.m. here on WJOB, 12:30 a.m., 104.7 FM. Thank you to all of the listeners and the callers who have welcomed me into your ears and on your YouTubes here for the last 6 or 7 months here with Chuck Pullen on the morning shows. I really appreciate it. Thanks to the second best producer here at WJOB, Lynette. I would say she's the first, but she likes Tom Daverton more, so that's what you get. Everybody stay safe out there. The roads are still just awful. Drive slow. Turn your headlights on. Be courteous. And if you see one of them NIPSCO linemen out there, thank them because they've got a real rough day ahead of them. All right, everybody. Thank you very much. Catch you next week. Chuck will be here for the New Year's edition of the Winter of Discontent with Chuck Pullen.